Hey, what's up, everybody? Time for a health update. If you like the videos, like, sub, silly comment, share, support the channel if you want. I appreciate it. Thanks. Super chat, PayPal, Patreon, super comment, whatever. If you want to, I appreciate it. Thanks. So let's talk about where are my blood tests now that I have been off TRT for a couple of months. And I'll talk about symptoms and things like that. Before I get into some of this, again, I was only on TRT for about 6 months, and the first few months of it, you got to remember that did not go well. I mean, I had basically was getting over, I had COVID once going into it, and then I got COVID again. So I had COVID twice. I was also trying to recover from a very bad period of cluster headaches, the worst period in many years. So, I mean, my first few months of TRT, maybe you could almost just throw it out the window, but you know, it is what it is. But definitely by towards the end of the TRT, I was starting to actually, start to actually feel some of the more energy and stuff like that. But ultimately I stopped because I couldn't get, dialed in, I guess, as some people say. And I was losing ferritin. My ferritin halved, despite being on a low dose. And when I say I was on a low dose, you got to remember, I forgot to put, I'm looking at this now. I forgot to put my DHEA. I'm sorry, but I'll talk about that even though I didn't write that, but that's my bad. But, my ferritin was dropping, despite I was on a low dose. A lot of times when people say they're on TRT, they're actually taking like 200 or some shit like that. I was taking generally about 90 to 100. And so 90 to 100, when I mean that, that's like 45 to 50. So I was on a low dose, right? A normal to low dose, if anything, right? So I wasn't taking anything big, but for some reason my ferritin was just dropping to an extreme degree, even on a low dose. Now I do have APS after radiation, so that's two things that can fuck up your red blood cells. Maybe that's a bad combo. Maybe, probably is. So maybe that was contributing, but I also did a capsule study and I'm bleeding internally, which is, that sucks. But I mean, I've tested positive for Crohn's disease before. I was dying from C. diff. So, I got a lot of problems. So I got to go do another colonoscopy since the capsule endoscopy showed I was, losing blood. So, a lot of things. I don't just have hormone problems. So whatever the case, I stopped. Now, what did I do for PCT, if you want to call it that? I tried HCG for maybe a week and a half, but HCG was giving me tremendous diarrhea, insane diarrhea. Like we're talking more than 12 times a day. I would have to wake up at night just to take a poop. I could not stop going. Now, apparently HCG giving you diarrhea is a rare side effect and it's generally only in girls, but I can tell you I had it and it was extreme. I thought maybe I got some kind of bad food poisoning, but I'm like a week and a half later, it's still going on. So it's like, maybe it's the HCG or something like that, or maybe just my hormones and a crazy fluctuation, since stopping, I don't know. But, then I tried the Clomid. Clomid, again, another rare side effect of Clomid can be giving you diarrhea, but normally it's only in girls. Went to the Clomid once I finally got that. And even Clomid, I was only, taking that every other day, and I was only taking like a 12.5, and even that I was still having quite a bit of diarrhea. Now again, I just said I've had Crohn's disease before, or well, I've tested positive for Crohn's disease, you would say, and I was dying from C. diff before, so I have a very sensitive stomach now, so I don't know what it is, but anyway, so the first month of PCT, I was only taking things sometimes because things were not going good, so I eventually stopped. I got prescribed ENCLOMIPHENE. And ENCLOMIPHENE, I can tell you that I've only been taking 6.25 every other day. So again, what you should understand is I'm taking a low dose. When you look at people when you're going to take ENCLOMIPHENE, normally it's something like 12, right? 12 would it be? Because 6.25 I'm on, right? Is that it? I should go look at my bottle, but whatever. It's a 6. Sorry. So I'm taking it every other day and I'm not even taking a big dose for the past month. And I'm taking tongkat Ali. This has been a long forward, right? Okay. So, but again, hopefully what you see from this is I'm not even taking a lot and whatever. So let's go to where we are. So my LH, what I just got checked after, 2 months, but really just a month, 8.7. Normally I'm at about a 4. So this has raised my levels quite a bit, LH, right? And this is, again, a low dose, just tongkat, Ali, and ENCLOMIPHENE, just 6.25, I guess it would be every other day. My FSH is 6.2, normally at a 4. My testosterone is 736, which is, like I said, just taking tongkat, Ali, I've been able to get my total testosterone to 800 before even. So I would say this is probably a pretty good number, considering that you got to think that, again, once you stop testosterone, your body's going to be basically at 0. And, again, a caveat you got to remember, though, is maybe the reason I bounced back, quotation marks, faster is I'm on a low dose of testosterone, or I was on a low dose of testosterone, and I wasn't on that long. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Maybe that could be, like I said, I'm very interested what I'm going to be the next time I have blood tests, like another 2 months. Because then, you got to think my body's been trying to like kickstart itself, right? So 736, again, even if you look at my test results when I was on TRT though, my total testosterone is not the problem. It's the free testosterone. And my free testosterone right now was an 11.1. So not good, but I've had single digits before, so it could be worse. But again, one of the problems, even when I was on testosterone, is my free testosterone is just so stubborn to try to raise. Like, I think on testosterone, and I was checked, multiple times. I think I was basically testing myself every month, but I had basically, I think 118, 119, and 120, but the ranges are to like 40. So that just shows you how stubborn my free testosterone is. So I guess it's not single digits, but it's still not good. My sex hormone binding globulin, I don't know why it was tested twice, which makes this seem obscure, but just to show it, like, I don't know why they tested it twice, but for some reason, one was 71, one was 57. So you're talking about terrible to catastrophically bad. They're both bad. So again, that's probably why my free testosterone is so binded up. Again, if you've been following the channel or my test, so it's shit. It's terrible. So do you want the levels of like a 90 to 100-year-old man, or to like a 60 or 70-year-old man? It's terrible, right? And again, it just goes to show you that it sucks that this radiation has just so totally fucked me up. I just, there's just seemingly nothing I can do, Yes, I've tried lots of boron. Let's not get into that. I've tried this shit, Unfortunately, even with the testosterone, I was just having trouble lowering it. Like, even at the testosterone, it was in the 40s, right? And a guy will start having symptoms in the 30s. So, excuse me, that was just one of the problems I'm having, dude. I'm not sure why they tested it twice. That makes it seem weird to me. Maybe a lab mistake or something, but it's like catastrophically bad or just really bad, right? So, 71 or 57, right? So again, the radiation, why would you have bad sex hormone binding globulin? Do you have a thyroid problem? Well, the radiation got rid of my thyroid. Do you have a liver problem? Well, at one point they actually said I had primary cirrhosis. All this radiation and dying shit had fucked me up so bad. Just shows that there's some kind of thing in my body that just has never recovered, right? My ferritin was at an 81, which is slowly a little bit higher. And the last test I had was 66. So you got to remember, I went to the hundreds to a 50 when I started TRT. Not good. And you need to be, over 70 to even try to grow your hair back, right? And, anything, so at least I'm back at 81 now. So I would assume, who knows? I got a colonoscopy in a few weeks. I would assume it's a multifactual with APS from radiation mixing with the red blood cells that get different when you're on testosterone, apparently. So that fucking up my ferritin mixed with bleeding internally. So I'm still not back to in the hundreds, but I guess it's raised a little bit. And like I said, 66 was the last test. And you got to remember that once I saw I was in the 50s, I am taking a ton of iron, and I'm already on iron already. So taking even more. Something else that might be interesting to you is my estrogen is now 40, which is another problem on the TRT, is that I should have got a bottle of water talking so much. My estrogen is at a 40, which isn't good, but the testosterone ratio to estrogen isn't that bad. Because you got to remember, something strange that was happening is on the testosterone. Normally, testosterone is supposed to raise your estrogen, right? My testosterone was not raising on the estrogen, or not. My testosterone was not raising. My estrogen was not raising on the testosterone like normal people. My estrogen was actually lowering for some reason. Like I actually had estrogen in the teens. And I was not taking Arimidex. Like my doctors even gave me Arimidex just in case that it became a problem. Well, for some reason on the testosterone, my estrogen was not raising. It was actually getting lower, which is not good. Yes, it was real estrogen, or yes, it was real testosterone, right? It wasn't some, mixed testosterone or something. It was at the pharmacy. So, boy, like I said, you just look at my blood test and you're like, something's not right. But then you're like, oh, you were dying and you have permanent side effects. So what you might be curious about symptoms. So yes, very fatigued, very, very tired since, stopping the testosterone. Like testosterone, I did actually start once I stopped, or around the time that I stopped, I actually was starting to get a little bit more energy. But again, with other things going on, decided to stop. I guess I am bleeding internally, so maybe I didn't have to stop knowing that I'm bleeding internally. But whatever, there were other things that were fucking me up, And so anyway, yeah, you stop and yeah, very fatigued, very, very fatigued again. Although a good thing is, I've said this before, something that happened on the TRT is when I first started, yes, there were some days that I was like, wait a second, you can feel the blood pumping to your penis again. I was like, whoa, like it's, I normally have like a bipolar sex drive, sometimes to no sex drive, right? And I very rarely get erections at night, right? But when I started the testosterone, I could start to feel, I'm like, wait a second, I can feel the blood like pumping to my penis again. Like there were, unfortunately, it was only a few days, but a few days I had like, whoa, like my dick feels powerful. I am ready to go. But unfortunately, that only lasted a few days, even if, and it was sporadically right when I started. Like some people have a honeymoon phase. I never even had a honeymoon phase. I was just sporadically right when I started that I felt a few days where, in that whatever month or two that I started, there's a few days that's like, whoa, my dick is ready to go. Maybe I would have felt it more if I wasn't dealing with having, COVID multiple times in a row and, going through a bad cluster headache period, most painful condition known to man, trying to get through that and recovering from that. But I can say, but eventually it went to my sex drive just completely went away. No boners at night. Like I said, I rarely get erections at night, to no erections at night, no sex drive whatsoever, just totally nothing, right? Which I assume you got to have some estrogen. My estrogen started dropping. I was having DHEA problems, which, and I was trying to supplement with DHEA and it just wasn't really working properly, which my DHEA now has started to raise a little bit. Still on the lower end, but a little bit higher than just being low, right? Oh, I forgot to put my pregnenolone. That's my bad. But my pregnenolone has always been all over the place. But again, I have chronic disease. So is that the testosterone fucking up my hormones? Is it just chronic disease? My pregnenolone, all that kind of stuff has always been extremely fluctuating. But I can say now, again, the fatigue, a lot of the fatigue came back. I talked about my sight was actually getting better on testosterone, which is strange, but it's more like I consider testosterone is you're almost in a alert stupor. That's how I would describe it. Like I was more alert and I had more energy, but I was kind of like in a stupor. Like I couldn't not necessarily being able to concentrate, but I had more energy, right? My sleep has gotten worse again, which is kind of strange. You'd think being fatigued, but I'm very fatigued, but I have extreme insomnia. But But something I can say, curiously enough, though, is I am starting to have random erections at night again. It's not good, but I am randomly getting erections at night again, which is something that just totally went away on the testosterone eventually, just totally nothing. Now sometimes, I'm kind of getting I'm getting a boner sometimes at night again, which is a health marker, right? Not every night, but I am starting to get erections again at night. But the fatigue, yeah, there were a few weeks where I was extremely, extremely fatigued. Now I'm just back to very, very fatigued, right? But again, you can see my testosterone, my total testosterone isn't bad. My free testosterone, not good. My sex hormone binding goblin, catastrophically bad. Like a 90-year-old man. It's no wonder that I don't, have lower free testosterone, right? So, but there's also other bad things going on. I guess what this would tell me is that when I look at this, it does make me curious to try the testosterone again, because I have showed that even with a low dose of ENCLOMIPHENE, my body is responding well to it, right? Because you got to remember, it's not like I have low testosterone problems because of a pituitary tumor. I've had a tumor downstairs, but not like I have a pituitary tumor. So it shows that, this medicine is still making my brain turn things on despite being at a low dose even. Not even what you see people talk about taking online that they take for ENCLOMIPHENE, for PCT even. Like I'm taking a low dose, so, but it shows that my body is responding well to it, I think. We'll definitely see where it is in a couple months, but I would be curious then to see, because some people say that they can take testosterone with ENCLOMIPHENE. Some people take testosterone with HCG, but some people say that they can take it with ENCLOMIPHENE to actually try to keep a little bit of production going even, and it helps some of those other kind of hormone markers. So perhaps looking at this, that tells me that maybe I could try that as well. So perhaps I'll do this colonoscopy. We'll see how much I'm bleeding still inside. We'll see what my iron's looking like. Then maybe I'll be like, maybe try testosterone again for a couple months, but with ENCLOMIPHENE this time, to see if it keeps my, estrogen from dropping for some reason, if it keeps my DHEA from dropping, if I can somehow try to keep my ferritin from dropping, so that would be a potential caveat. And I would like to see that, I would hope that I got to talk to my doctors, be like, hey man, you can see I'm taking so much iron and I'm having such trouble raising my iron levels and ferritin. Is it possible that, iron transfusions, right? Instead of just trying to take all these iron supplements, because all these iron supplements are a lot of money. And they're like, well, you know what? Yeah, you were in the hundreds, but you only went down to 50. And, we've seen that, you were able to get your iron back, a little bit, right? And they're like, as long as you get to 30, one of the doctors is like, I don't want to think about iron transfusions. But the thing is, I've been in the 30s before I started taking iron supplements because my iron was getting so low, right? So they already know I have a problem. But again, as usual, problem is the doctors are always like, well, we don't want to admit the radiation made you this sick, that you have these permanent problems and permanent dysfunctions in your body, and, you were dying, blah, blah. So it's a shit show. But, buying all these iron supplements and taking so much is very financially draining. So just give me a blood transfusion sometimes every now and then to keep my ferritin up, instead of fucking making me take all this fucking iron supplements all the time, because this shit is expensive. I'm taking so much. Anyway, remember if you like the videos, like, sub, silly, comment, share, support the channel if you want. I appreciate it. Thanks.